Gail Dines, Pornland. How porn has hijacked our sexuality. Have you ever caught yourself scrolling through a feed, drawn by captivating imagery, only to stumble upon content that seems a tad more explicit? Well, you're not alone. In the age of digital saturation, it's becoming harder to draw lines among entertainment, information, and explicit content. This raises a question. How has our society's relationship with pornography shifted? And what does this say about us? More importantly, how does it affect the way we see the world, our relationships, and ourselves? In this blink, we delve into the world of the pornography industry, its historical evolution, its profound impact on societal norms, and its intricate relationship with mainstream media. By the end, you'll have gained a comprehensive understanding of the underlying forces that shape our perceptions, attitudes, and interactions in the digital age. With this knowledge in hand, you'll be better positioned to navigate modern media, foster healthier relationships, and even engage in more informed discussions on the topic. Ready? Let's dive in. A sexual revolution unfolds. Like all good stories, ours starts at the beginning. How did we reach our current perceptions and portrayals of pornography? Well, to truly grasp the present, we need to rewind a bit. Remember, it wasn't so long ago that pornography was whispered about in hushed tones. So what changed? Let's travel to the 1950s, a time of change, a post-war economic boom, and emerging cultural shifts. Enter Hugh Hefner and his new Playboy magazine. In it, Hefner brought forth a portrayal of a sophisticated bachelor existence, synchronizing with the cultural shifts and burgeoning consumerism of the times. The inception of Playboy wasn't just about exhibitionism. It was also a calculated move to integrate an extravagant lifestyle and evolving societal principles with the burgeoning acceptance of explicit content. In other words, a cultural revolution in the making. Hefner was soon joined by Bob Guccione, who in 1965 brought Penthouse magazine into the world. His aim? To rival Playboy by offering content that was considered even more daring. Guccione, forsaking initial advertising revenue, played a long game, enhancing the explicitness of Penthouse to attract a growing demographic hungry for more vivid content. This rivalry escalated the already burgeoning competition, transforming the essence of mainstream pornography. Each publication, in its bid to outshine the other, ventured further into the unexplored realms of explicit content, hence attracting a diverse readership, broadening the spectrum and acceptance of explicit content in the process. Sounds familiar, right? This relentless pushing of boundaries is still with us in today's evolving explicit content landscape, one where acts once considered taboo are becoming part of the pornographic mainstream. This evolution brings up big questions. Is it just about pushing the envelope, or is it more about how porn has become a part of mainstream culture, changing the way we think and live? The spread and acceptance of explicit content haven't stayed within the pages of magazines. They've significantly influenced how we view sex and relationships. This connection meant that by the time the internet started to become a household staple, the groundwork had been set. Society was ready to accept pornography as a regular part of life, not just some isolated, shameful industry. But this acceptance has a price. It obscures the deep impact of a culture filled with images and stories that can strip away our humanity, reducing us to objects, devoid of respect and self-control. It makes us question whether we've gotten tangled in a system that turns intimacy and human connection into products, overlooking the real value of genuine human interactions. Looking at the journeys of Playboy and Penthouse shows us that it's not just about how adult content has changed. It's about how it has lined up with changes in our societal norms and consumer desires. The rivalry and creativity of these magazines played a key role in changing how society sees and feels about explicit content, embedding it deeply in our everyday lives. And this leads to another question. Is this just normal cultural growth, or is it the start of a deeper loss of our human values and respect? We'll explore this question in the next Blink. How porn culture defines society's perception of women. Now that we've examined the historical development of pornographic content, let's look at its repercussions. Specifically, its impact on our perception of women in society. It turns out that the effects are notably detrimental, contributing to a world in which women are objectified and commodified. But how exactly is this shaping our views on women and affecting our everyday actions and attitudes? First off, it should be no surprise that the sexist narrative present in porn cultivates an environment in which the objectification and subjugation of women are normalized and even eroticized. Porn, by consistently portraying women in subservient roles, perpetuates the notion that women exist primarily for the sexual gratification of men. And this, of course, mirrors long-standing, entrenched, patriarchal ideologies that have historically subordinated women, reducing their value and agency to their physical attributes and sexual availability. If that weren't bad enough, porn narratives also display a disparity in the portrayal of sexual pleasure, which is almost exclusively centered around male gratification. This singular focus downplays female sexual pleasure, dismissing it as secondary or, in some cases, completely inconsequential. This skewed representation can lead to the internalization of such beliefs, affecting relationships and contributing to the perpetuation of gender inequalities in intimate spaces. And with boys starting to watch porn at an average age of 11.5 years old, these distorted portrayals are also shaping young males' perceptions of sexuality from an incredibly young age. This, of course, poses serious implications for societal attitudes and behaviour toward women and relationships. It's not just boys who are adversely affected by these representations. Girls, too, are exposed to porn, and also to the content of magazines like Cosmopolitan. Such magazines often underline the importance of keeping men satisfied as a crucial aspect of maintaining relationships, providing explicit advice aimed at catering to male pleasure. This suggests, if subtly, that declining male advances isn't a choice for a woman who wishes to maintain a relationship. This notion perpetuates the incessant need to satisfy male desires and whims, consequently narrowing the broad spectrum of genuine female sexual experiences, and reinforcing a pattern in which women's wants and needs are secondary to men's. Take this example from the hit show Sex and the City. The female lead, Carrie, discovers a male friend secretly tapes his girlfriends during intimate acts. Rather than being repulsed, she shows interest and watches the tapes. This capitulation to invasive pornographic norms in an attempt to attain male approval vividly illustrates the depth to which these norms have infiltrated the psyche, influencing behaviour and creating an environment where sexism and objectification thrive. It's crucial to recognise that such media influences are not merely passive or superficial, they seep into the psyche, modulating self-perception and reinforcing sexist attitudes. Women become their own harshest critics, striving to meet hypersexualized standards, fostering a deep sense of self-loathing and perpetuating a cycle of aiming for an unattainable ideal. Recognizing these impacts isn't just about acknowledging the negatives. It's a call to action. First off, we need to be conscious and discerning in our media consumption. Next, taking time to reflect on these deep-seated norms is vital. And most importantly, we must come together to champion diverse and authentic representations of women. Through these combined efforts, we can challenge and change the ingrained sexist views perpetuated by porn culture. This will be a difficult journey, but it's a necessary one. The ultimate quest is not just to unveil, but to untangle, to redefine, and to reclaim the essence of femininity from the shackles of objectification and sexism. Porn's strategic infiltration of mainstream media. All right, now that we have a good overview of both the modern history of the porn industry and its inherent sexism, let's move on to its presence in mainstream society. After all, understanding the interplay between the porn industry and mainstream business is vital in gauging the overall impact and influence of pornographic content in shaping societal norms and attitudes. First and foremost, the sheer magnitude of the industry is staggering, with its worth estimated at a monumental $96 billion globally in 2006, rivaling major Hollywood studios' combined revenues. The staggering magnitude of the porn industry signifies more than just its colossal economic footprint. It also symbolizes its pervasive influence across diverse domains of society, seamlessly infiltrating mainstream culture. This seamless amalgamation is not a mere coincidence, but the result of carefully crafted strategies aimed at normalizing its presence. To understand this, we need to take a careful look at the subtle and overt instances of pornographic elements within mainstream media. One way that this takes place is through films and series subtly incorporating pornographic elements, weaving them into the narrative without commentary. This subtly normalizes the presence of pornography within the public consciousness. Take, for instance, the 2004 independent film Sideways, where the main character, portrayed by Paul Giamatti, is depicted reading Hustler's Barely Legal magazine, a publication known for featuring women appearing younger than 18. The presence of the magazine is not a focal point or a subject of debate within the film. Instead, it is simply a part of the everyday scenery, contributing to the callous normalization of such content. Showtime's series Weeds provides a more blatant instance when the character Andy Botwin, played by Justin Kirk, takes a job on a porn set. The renowned porn performer Lexington Steele films sex scenes that serve mostly as background, with little of the porn film's dialogue being heard. Such a portrayal, in which pornography merely serves as a backdrop to Andy Botwin's scenes, subtly entrenches it within mainstream narratives and everyday dialogues. These integrations echo a rising trend in which porn performers are becoming commonplace in pop culture, heralded as the new crossover artists by the LA Times. This phenomenon sees porn stars like Sasha Grey and ex-performers like Tracy Lords and Katie Morgan entering mainstream media, contributing to films like Zack and Miri Make a Porno. The growing presence of these performers in mainstream settings reflects the evolving status of the porn industry, transitioning from a concealed operation to a multi-billion-dollar global industry. This rapid emergence and integration of porn stars into non-pornographic media has led to their acceptance as a unique category of celebrity.
Last
They share
kilometer took you
gossip on
6
talk
minutes and
radio,
43
sign
seconds.
autographs at trade shows, and market themselves aggressively, paralleling the strategies employed by mainstream celebrities and athletes. This acceptance, and the ensuing dialogue surrounding it, underscored by articles like the one in the LA Times, serve as testament to the increasing normalcy and newsworthiness of porn in the modern media landscape. These examples illustrate a carefully orchestrated infusion of pornographic elements into mainstream media, accentuating its subtle and not so subtle normalization, and raising pressing questions about the implications of such integrations for societal perceptions and norms. Coupled with its documented repercussions for women, this pervasive influence becomes a matter of pressing concern. The normalization of pornographic content not only validates but amplifies the objectification and commodification of women, turning damaging stereotypes into pervasive cultural norms. Such widespread acceptance and desensitization should give us all pause. The unseen impact of porn on men's lives. So far, we've homed in on how the porn industry negatively affects women. But it's not just women wrestling with porn. Let's dive into how it drastically influences men as well, altering attitudes, reshaping relationships, and moulding sexual expectations and intimacy. Take a moment to think about the disparity between expectation and reality when it comes to intimate relationships. The imagery portrayed in porn can lead to heightened and often unrealistic expectations about sexual encounters, possibly setting the stage for disappointment and a lack of fulfillment. Here, fantasies might veer into the adventurous, even the wild, potentially causing rifts in relationships. Why? Because your real-world partner might not be aboard the same fantasy train, thus creating potential for conflict and dissatisfaction. This separation from reality can permeate deeper into those intimate moments. Many men find themselves caught in the replay of pornographic scenes or lost in the allure of their favourite adult actors while with their partners. This robs them of truly connecting, physically and emotionally, with their partners, diminishing the potential depth and connection of relationships. Another important issue here is, of course, pornography's addictive potential, which is particularly the case with college-age men. This is a domain where the pursuit of pleasure becomes an overwhelming compulsion, overshadowing responsibilities and isolating individuals in a world full of explicit content. The bad news doesn't stop there, though. Depression is commonly linked to porn addiction, often leading to a negative spiral of psychological distress. But the porn roller coaster doesn't stop at emotional detachment and addiction. It ventures into territories of desensitization and escalation. With every viewing session, there's this creeping numbness, a growing hunger for more, be it in intensity or extremity. This thirst can drag some to darker corners of the web, possibly stoking flames of disturbing, even dangerous interests. All of this just goes to show that porn is more than just visual stimuli. It's a catalyst for altered perceptions, reshaped relationships, modified expectations, and complex psychological alterations. Unravelling the layers, it becomes clear how deeply pornography can influence the very fabric of our relationships, perceptions, and self-worth. It's crucial for society to recognise, understand, and address these implications, ensuring a healthier dialogue about intimacy and connection in the digital age. In this blink to Pornland by Gail Dines, you've learned that societal perceptions and portrayals of pornography have evolved significantly from the 1950s to today, starting with magazines like Playboy and Penthouse. Their rivalry pushed boundaries and played a role in embedding explicit content in mainstream culture. The consequences of such evolution? An increasing objectification and commodification of women. This trend is intensified by porn's seamless integration into mainstream media, normalizing its presence and reinforcing damaging stereotypes. Men, too, grapple with the repercussions of porn. The imagery often creates unrealistic expectations in intimate relationships, leading to emotional detachment, potential addiction, and even desensitization. Ultimately, the pervasive influence of pornography reshapes relationships, perceptions, and self-worth, underscoring the need for a healthier dialogue about intimacy. Thanks so much for listening. Please leave us a rating or a comment. We always appreciate your feedback. See you in the next Blink.